Hey guys, my name is Kris Barocsi. Welcome to comment time number 13. That's a good number. Actually, my favorite one. You don't believe me? Well, just saying. What a cool shirt, by the way. Thanks, Rav. Comment Time is my Q&A series where I try to answer as many of your questions and comments as possible. So if you have any, if you want to know something or just want to let me know whatever is on your mind, just let me know in the comment section under this video. Let's get into it. Macaulay70 commented under my last Comment Time video. I want a video that shows how to buy a guitar, how I know that this guitar is good or bad compared to the same model in another color, for example. I don't think anyone has the right to say what's a good guitar and what's a bad guitar. It needs to be good for you. So if you're following that logic, you just go in a store as soon as that's possible again, or just order something, and if you feel inspired, if you feel comfortable on the guitar and it just looks right, then it's the right guitar for you. It's that easy. But of course, it's very nice to have someone around with experience with guitars. Let's say you don't play for that long and you're just not sure. Is it good? Is it not? It's like so many question marks popping up in your head, and you just cannot tell if it's good or bad because of a lack of experience. Just grab anyone who you know and plays guitar for longer than you and just grab a second opinion. If you really want to get into like tiny details, like you want to compare 3 of the same guitar and grab the best one, those differences between models are very often super small. So if you're not very experienced with guitars, I'm not even sure if you could tell that small difference at all. And that's totally fine, because you don't need to be picky to become better at playing guitar. Pickiness comes after a time, and not with everyone. It's not always the same. Some are super easy to to inspire, and I would so want to be one of those persons. It's not very important to grab that one guitar out of 3 identical guitars that's like 5% better. It's cool. Grumpy Cat had a real fun comment. You might want to read it through. It's just the nicest, coolest comment. With what setup do you get the best guitar sounds at living room volume levels, not for recording, without clamping speakers to your head? Possibly a myth to bust. 4x12 full stacks don't work at bedroom levels. It's not really a myth, I guess it's just fact. If we're talking about the best guitar tones at bedroom levels, I would definitely go for whatever amp you want to have. Doesn't really matter how loud or quiet it actually is, and use a very good power attenuator with it, and then stick to your guitar cab. That's what I love doing. If I'm not recording, I'm just using the Captor X as attenuation at the lowest level, which is like, I think, minus 40 dB. This one, for example, manages to keep all the dynamics and the presence and everything you love about your guitar sound when it's loud, just bring it down to basically a whispering level. And I'm using like the Mesa is, 6575 watts, and the Rev is 40 watts. Both are really loud, like really loud, and I can turn them up wherever I want. I can crank them and still have some sort of an acceptable volume. And for like night practices, when you're, I don't know, kind of sleep and at midnight you want to jam some guitar, you can still get away with it if you can close a door and have some sort of a room for you where you can play. Stick to the lowest volume. This one definitely works. You can get, of course, an even better one. My favorite one is the Strat Power Station, which costs a lot of money, and it's a tube attenuator. It's basically a tube power amp built in, and the power station will swallow all the volume from your amp and rebuild that volume with its own power amp. And it's designed in a way that it sounds absolutely magnificent at whispering volumes. It just costs almost €1,000. Yeah, that's an issue. But if you ask for the best sound, that's what I would do probably. Stick to my rig, my stage rig, my studio rig, whatever I love, and just get my favorite power attenuator and play at whatever volume I want to play at. Simon Simonski had a good question. Another great video, Kris. I have a question for your next Q&A. I'm looking for a Strat with stainless steel jumbo or extra jumbo frets. I can't find anything like that on the internet. The only option is Warmouth, but I would rather buy assembled product to avoid the shipping cost and import taxes. Any idea where to look? I know what you mean. Stainless steel options are sort of limited, especially if you're not ready to spend a lot of money. Because of course, you can grab any sewer guitar, those will have stainless steel frets, but those will cost quite a lot of money. So if you're not into that price range, it's a little harder. Japanese Ibanez AZ models also have stainless steel frets, but still we're talking about 1,900 euros, which is still not really affordable. If you wanna grab something that costs less, you should check out some Japan models, because the Korean ones have stainless steel frets. I'm so not sure about the names. I think it's the ML1, which is the S-type, and the Pro model, which means that it's built in Korea. Those are really good, around 1,000 euros, and those have stainless steel frets. Next one is from James Wilson. Good video. I love hearing opinions, agree or not. I appreciate people's input. I have a 57 Les Paul original stock. Dude, okay, wow. Except for bridge pickup and volume pot for bridge pickup. My question is, when you back the volume down, it gets really muddy. I don't know much about wiring any, but I've owned other guitars you could back the volume down and it was still clear as a bell. Any ideas would be appreciated. First of all, I'm really surprised that an original 57 gets muddy if you turn down the volume, but there's an explanation for that. Whoever changed the pickup and the pod probably used a different wiring than the original one, because the 50s wiring is what you actually need to avoid that muddy sound when you roll down the volume. if you're not familiar with this 50s wiring and just electronics and soldering and stuff, maybe you should ask someone to do it, someone with experience, a guitar tech, luthier. It's a pretty simple thing to do, and that might solve the problem. I can show you my Les Paul's wiring. That's what I have in mind. It's a 50s wiring, which means that you use the capacitor between the volume and the tone pot and wire it exactly how you can see it on screen right now. If that's not enough, there's one more thing what you could do, and that's called the treble bleed mod, which means that you have a capacitor or even a capacitor and a resistance together wired on two logs of the volume pot. There's the input log and the output log. Well, if you look at it, it's like the left one and the middle one, and you wire that capacitor between these two. And with that, that's like a high pass filter, basically. And when you turn down the volume on that volume pot, the lows and the highs will decrease in sort of a balance. Christopher Miles wrote a comment under my Does a Telecaster Chant video. Hey, is there any reason you didn't have the EQ at the start going into the drives, then use the boss at the end to tighten it up? I would have done it that way. I was wondering if there were any benefits to doing it that way. Cheers. You can do whatever works with your rig. EQ pedals are very powerful, even more so if they're after all the drives. Like, think about all the Mark series Mesas. They will have the EQ, like the graphic EQ section, after all the drive happen, like between the preamp and the power amp. With that, you can do extreme changes, right? If you have the EQ in front of the drives, you are sort of subtly influencing the drive pedal or the amp overdriving, and you cannot go nuts with all those boosts and cuts of those frequencies you want to change. Both work perfectly. I just prefer, especially if I'm trying to create a genty modern metal sound with a telly, which is like not the most obvious pairing, not the most obvious choice. I want to have all the radical tools I can get from an EQ, so that's why I had it after the drive pedals. And also, if you think about it, if you have like the Boss OD1 or a Tube Screamer or an Archer, whatever, in front of another overdrive or an overdriven amp, that's already an EQ change. That's why we love these pedals, because they will cut the bass and the treble, most of them, and they will give you an option of tweaking that tone with a tone knob or with like an EQ, maybe even. Depends on the pedal, of course. So there is an EQ section basically before the main overdrive happens already. So why would I put my EQ pedal also in front? With that, I would lose the final tone shaping feature of having an EQ behind the drives, and I really didn't want to do that. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to them. They might end up in one of my next comment time videos. You guys take it easy. I'll be back in a week, and take care.